Good afternoon, Year 6. Welcome to this week's Humanities lesson. Well done to all those children that answered the challenge question correctly. Yes, 3 million soldiers fought for the British Empire in World War One. Well done. Well done to all those children that sent in some fantastic work this week. Particularly well done to Biravan, Arishan, Srivatsan, Miria, Sebastian, Bhavana, Madalena. Well done. Keep the great work coming in. I really look forward to seeing it every week. Are we ready? Before we start, make sure that you have your pen and your book in front of you. Today's date is Wednesday the 20th of May 2020, and your learning intention is to know the importance of the Battle of the Somme. Stop the video and write that in your book. Before we start, I'd like you to listen very carefully to the following slides, as you are going to need some of the information to answer questions at the end for your task today. July 1916. The Battle of the Somme took place during the First World War in France by the River Somme. The French army had lost many soldiers to the German army at Verdun. The British army were ordered to help the French army defend themselves against the Germans. Did you know the British army had soldiers from other countries fighting with them? There were men from Ireland, Newfoundland, South Africa, and India. The trenches. During World War One, huge trenches were dug into the ground wherever there was a battle. The soldiers would live in the trenches and when ordered to, had to climb up out of the trenches and run towards the enemy troops. This was called going over the top. Trenches were muddy, narrow and damp. The British plan. The plan was to fire at the German lines and then advance towards them on foot and fight face to face. Many British commanders did not think this was a very good strategy, but others, like British General Douglas Haig, thought it was the best thing to do. The first day of the Somme. On that first day, the British Army fired 1,738,000 shells at the German trenches. Then they advanced towards them. It was catastrophic. The Germans were hardly affected by the shells as they hid deep in their trenches. The British soldiers were mown down by German machine gun fire. The British Army suffered 20,000 casualties on that first day. A casualty is a soldier who is dead or seriously wounded. Kitchener's Army. Many of the casualties were part of Kitchener's army. Lord Kitchener was a senior British Army officer and his face had appeared on hundreds of posters encouraging young men to volunteer to join the army. The men had very little training or experience on the battlefield. Lost generation. Journalists were given misinformation about the battle and reported that German prisoners are surrendering freely and a good many of them already have fallen into our hands. The people in Britain were angry at the huge loss of so many young men and called it the lost generation. Lord Kitchener believed you could grind your enemy down until they surrendered. War shrines. Back in Britain, people began to build simple war shrines in honour of the fallen soldiers. These were simple wooden handmade tablets with the names of men carved into them. They were often found on street corners. No man's land. The area between the British trenches and German trenches was called no man's land. On the 14th of July 1916, the British Army soldiers gathered here at night, ready to launch a massive dawn attack. At 3:20 a.m., the British pounded the enemy lines and the Germans were taken by surprise. Weapons. The Battle of the Somme was the first time tanks had been used in warfare. However, they were slow and unreliable. On one day, 36 tanks set off towards the German trenches. Only 15 made it to the front line because the rest broke down. Other weapons used were machine guns, mines, and poisonous gas. Personal accounts. On the night before he was sent over the top, Second Lieutenant Percy Boswell wrote, "If the unexpected does happen, I shall rest content with the knowledge that I have done my duty, and one can't do more. Goodbye, and with the best of love to all. The British attack has been brutally repulsed. Machine gun fire had done its terrible work." He died on the battlefield the next day. The last day of the Somme. On the 13th of November 1916, the British attacked the German defences and captured 7,000 German prisoners. Winter was closing in. The terrible weather meant men were trying to fight in muddy, boggy fields. Fighting was suspended. The plan was to carry on fighting in February, but the Germans decided to retreat. The battle was officially over on the 18th of November. Facts about the Battle of the Somme. It had been a terrible battle, with 420,000 casualties for the British Army. The French lost 200,000 men. The Germans lost 500,000 men. In 141 days, the British had only advanced 7 miles. Many men from Britain had been grouped together in battalions from the same town, called British Pals. Think about what might be the problem if a whole battalion was wiped out. If the men had been grouped together from the same town, that means that if they were all wiped out, there would be no more towns. July 1916 to November 1916, the Battle of the Somme. Okay, Year 6, your task today is to answer these questions about the Battle of the Somme. I would like full sentences with the correct punctuation. So stop the video and complete your work. So the answers are on the next slide, so no peeking, but you can check when you've finished. Have a go first. These are your answers, so well done if you've got them correct. I look forward to having a look at your work and giving you lots of shout outs for next week. So have fun and keep safe. Bye for now.